It's another episode, excuse me, of the war on the poor, and another way to see. I'm gonna read this for everybody who somebody who's just listening. Starting today, it would be a crime to sleep on the streets on on state-owned land in Missouri. That includes streets, parks, and underneath bridges and overpasses. So you're gonna be fined $700 or $15 in jail. And I'm gonna tell y'all what this does. I know it's a lot of people who saying, oh, they get 3 hops on the cop, they get this and that. You know what else you get that y'all not even thinking about? A jail record. So not only you're homeless, now you have a jail record, and they make it harder on you to get on your feet when you out of here. If you have the resources around you to even do that, rehabilitation centers and stuff that they don't even think about building. So all this right now is just another episode on the world on the poor and what we should be doing. Like you know, on the 16th, we're going to be out in Buffalo, New York. We're going to be out in Washington D.C. and here in Detroit, Michigan on the same day. On the 16th, on my birthday, we're gonna dedicate this whole day to the people who was really going through it. We're gonna touch everybody, but we really gotta push back on these people and show people that it's okay. We don't care what the laws say. We don't care if there are laws against us feeding them and them having nowhere to stay. We have to push back. We have to come together and lock arms against them. Or it was a couple of protests going around some encampments, and they was armed, and they told the police like, you will not tear down these people homes, you will not kick them out the space. But this is what we need overall. We need to show our people solidarity, because where else are they going to go? They're going to become slaves. They're going to become slaves to the prison industrial complex. This the revolving door that gets them a record, and then they're going to have nowhere else to go but to the 3 hops and the cop. And then it become a part of you. It become a part of your life. And sometimes this is all they know. So then they're going to go back. I remember going to jail. One time I went to jail for driving. And then like a year later, I went to jail again. I saw one of my boys that I met in jail. And I realized that was his mindset. And he's still in jail. He go to jail for petty crimes, like around this time. Around this time, he'd go steal a pack of chicken or go get into it with an employee, make it look like it's something that it's not, so he has somewhere to go. That's the best that we can offer our people. The richest country in the world. That's all y'all can do. Y'all got more empty houses than the homeless people on the streets today, and we can still solve this problem. Quick, fast, in a hurry. But this is the best that y'all can do. But I'm gonna open up the
panel. Yeah. This is terrible. When I first saw this, what other thing can they say this is doing? Like, what other reason can they give besides that this is specifically to target? I'll click on this here so we can see another news story. This is specifically to target unhoused people. I just don't see how there could be any other reason.
They're going to start pulling their weight. Homeless people, but I know a lot of homeless people work, but a lot of homeless people don't. But how the state feeling is, hey, we're gonna get something out of these people. And if we have to lock them up and get slave labor out of them, then so be it.
Yeah, I think when I read the article, the goal, I guess, was to get them into the shelters instead. But here's the problem: is that not everybody feels safe staying in a shelter. Some people that are homeless have PTSD and they just don't feel comfortable with other people around them that they don't know. The other problem, too, is that those shelters a lot of times have strict rules. So they have curfews. Some of them don't allow children. Some of them may be women only. And then to go along with that, too, if you are one of the homeless people that does have a job, let's say you work at night. Are you going to make it back to the shelter in time for the curfew? This is exactly why some people don't stay in the shelters. And what's really scary about this law is that this could be a precedent for other states. Like, what if other states look at what Missouri did and said, well, maybe we should make homelessness illegal too and criminalize it.
Yeah, and another thing to add on to what Sabby just said is some of these shelters are also ran by religious organizations. And so because they're ran by religious organizations, then they force you, if you want to stay in these shelters, you have to go by what they do as their religious traditions. You may have to study the Bible with them. If you're an atheist, or if you're a religion other than Christian, then you may not want to do this, but you're forced to sit and study or pray with them and things like that. But what if you're Hindu? What if you're Muslim? What if you're Jehovah's Witness? What if you're any of these other religions that say, look, I just don't want to pray with y'all because we don't pray to the same God, or I'm not religious at all. But now they have to adhere to these religious practices in order to have a place to stay, which really is not free at all. So, it's wild.
And
What's crazy too is the same state that just legalized marijuana just criminalized homelessness. So they still get people for the prison industrial complex.
Marijuana is for the rich people. It's always for the rich people because niggas still getting locked up for marijuana in the cities federally. So, and like you were saying, dang it. I'm sorry. You can go ahead. I'm sorry. I forgot my whole thing. Because we have
no worries. I'm just gonna toss up another headline right here. Turns out there is a lot of headlines on the story. Because there's a lot.
That's what I meant. The timing.
Go ahead.
The timing. Because a lot of them, we stayed in the shelter before. A lot of them, damn near half of my family stayed in shelters. You gotta be there. Like
regulation on
we got jobs and stuff like that. We homeless, but we was workers.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be at the shelter at 5 o'clock when they about to close the doors. When they getting ready to close the doors, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Oh, you can't have one kid, you can't have two kids. Oh, we'll take your kid and your fiance, but we can't take you.
Right.
Et cetera. It's crazy, but
yeah. Oh, there's another point that I wanted to make as well. There are some shelters that have a rule: if a child is, particularly a boy, is of a certain age, then they have to go with the men's side of the shelter instead of staying with the rest of the families. Yeah. And so, and I know this from anecdotally because my mom, when we were little, my mother, they tried to make my oldest brother stay with the men. By the way, my mother was a single mom, so my brother would have to stay around men who we didn't know, and he's a preteen, or he's a teenager, and they basically are saying, no, well, you're 13, you have to stay with the men. And it's like my mother was like, oh hell no. You're not, I'm not letting my son be with all these strange men that I don't know. He's staying with me. Either he stays with me or we're leaving. And what if they said, okay, you can go? What if they kicked her out? Then what are people going to go? Oh, well, you just didn't want to go by the rules. So then you deserve to be out here on the street. Like, no.
All the abuse that these people face, the rape allegations, the rape kits that haven't been tested, and that's, you know what I'm saying? Man, it's a dirty world out there, man. When the government already see you as nothing, a lot of people see you way less than that. They're like, man, they don't even like you. I'm just doing this for a job. Fuck y'all. Yeah, that's how they feel. They're $500 to $1,000 a head that come in there. You would think they'd be able to take care of, you know what I'm saying, certain things and keep up operations, you know what I'm saying, to keep up the kitchen or roof not leaking, but no. Or maybe a better bed, but no.
I just want to answer this person's question. One check away. Sabby, can a ballot initiative change this law? Yes. And if you live in Missouri and you want to organize for that, you want to start this month. You need to start organizing in January to get something going to see if you can overturn this law.
There's a tweet by Nick that he put in the chat. I can read it really quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, if you can toss it up, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, you're sharing the screen right now.
Oh, yeah, I get. I'll take it down. My bad.
Sorry.
I'm reading the article. I wasn't even looking at the thing. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's all good. So Nick shared this tweet. He says, in ballot initiatives, Missourians increased the minimum wage, expanded Medicaid, and legalized marijuana these last few years. The bills the ruling class passed was police budget expansions and criminalizing the homelessness. You see the priorities of the ruling class versus everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
This is what happens when you give people direct democracy. If you give
Mhm.
ballot initiatives, give people direct democracy. Otherwise, the ruling class is making up all the rules.
yeah. Thanks to Nick for sharing that in the chat. Shout out to Nick.
I wonder where they would be at, if it wasn't for the people out there in Missouri fighting, if it wasn't for the tenant unions, if it wasn't for our comrades on the ground, because man, it's looking bad. They're getting theirs, and we just getting fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Let me put that article back up just so for those that may just heard about this, even myself may not know all of it. Let me read just a little bit of it. This one is from Missouri Independent, and it has things on the website like civil rights, criminal justice, energy, environment. So I'm assuming that tells me it's kind of left leaning. And then the headline is new Missouri law makes sleeping on state land a crime for people experiencing homelessness. Also, the headline kind of tells me that the way they're framing it.
Yeah, they calling it a crime.
Yeah.
Trying to go around.
And it's just people experiencing homelessness. Yeah, and it's saying all the right things in the right way. So this subheadline: national organizations are urging HUD's general counsel to weigh in on whether the measure violates federal policy and law. That's another giveaway. Because they're asking it from the perspective of people who need home, not from the perspective of we just got a law and let's just clear them out, and that's it. So let me read a little more just to give us a little more on the story. I'll make it a little bigger for everybody. Missouri Governor Mike Parsons signed sweeping legislation Wednesday, making it Class C misdemeanor for people experiencing homelessness to sleep on state-owned land. The law prevents some federal and state funds from being used to construct affordable housing, instead redirecting that money towards constructing temporary camps that can provide substance abuse and mental health treatment.
So prison.
There you go.
Yeah.
It also allows the Missouri Attorney General to sue local governments that don't enforce laws and orders on unauthorized public camping, sleeping, and obstructions of sidewalks, and threatens the loss of all state and federal funding for housing and homelessness if they don't abide by such bans. This is terrible. They're like,
wow.
we gonna make you. This is very similar to the slave patrols, where the government activated every white male, able white male, and said, you're part of the slave catcher. It's your duty to go out and make sure you're catching slaves. It's like just making people be a part of the state and enforce these sort of oppressive, repressive laws. It's just astonishing.
Yeah,
I know that cop feels some way. The shit that I was saying to him, he looked like he wanted to cry. He tried to touch me, like, sir, turn around. So no, he said, stop moving. Say what?
I was gonna say too that if you look up the top 20 states for the highest homeless rate in the U.S., Missouri isn't even in the top 20. So it's interesting that it's happening in this state.
Yeah. One of the things I also want to put into people's minds, especially regarding things like this, is I want you guys to think of all the 13, 14, and 15-year-olds that are out on the street tonight because they were kicked out of their homes for being queer. It's not just adults, it's children that's also out on the streets. And some of them are alone and by themselves because they live within the Bible Belt. And they have families that, because they're trans or because they're non-binary or because they're lesbian, bi, or gay, they get kicked out of their homes and now they have to run the streets. And so because of that, then guess what? Now they will be faced with going into juvie, or if they're over the age of 18, going into prison. and being, or going to jail and then having to pay a $750 fine. How many of you have $750 to drop on a hat?
I know I don't.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
it's
don't-
around
Mhm.
They
it's,
don't.
ar- it's,
I'm
it's
sorry.
around 20% under the age of 18.
Mhm.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids. And people talk about, oh, we need to protect our children. I'm sorry, say what? You want to protect children? Let's end homelessness, because that also protects children too.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the thing that a lot of capitalists don't realize. You guys want to end poverty for children? You have to end poverty in total for everybody. You want to end homelessness for children? You have to end homelessness for everybody across the board. You want to end hunger? You have to end hunger for everybody across the board. You see, here's the thing. When does our compassion for people, why does it end as soon as they hit the age of 18? That doesn't make sense. You should have just as much compassion for somebody that's 3 as a compassion as somebody is when they're 30. I don't care. They're human beings. And so this is the problem that we see within this country, because it is profits first. It is egalitarian society. And if you do not produce, then they see you as somebody that's not worth it, when really you have inherent value just because you exist. And so it just gets on my nerves. It gets me really upset because people are being treated like they're nothing.
There's some of that comes from the Black church too, JB.
True.
Because
Very true.
I think we've had this discussion
That's-
before
yeah.
that, like,
Mhm.
when it comes to like African American families, we are more likely to kick our kids out at 18, whether they have a job or not. Tell them at 18 you
Yeah.
have to go. Whereas for more like the white families, those kids can come back home and live with the parents.
Yeah.
It's a lot of self-hatred in the Black community displayed through corporal punishment. Just look at, I mean, literally, it looks, what does that resemble? What is a spanking, for example, in a typical Black family resemble? Like,
Yeah.
if we are so hard on each other. You go to Black salons, maybe you know some people that don't, little girls getting their hair done and they're in pain, and it's like kind of like just, it's
Mhm.
part of the thing. There's so
Yeah.
much intertwined with what we do to ourselves, colorism. I mean, we still do that. I mean, we still talk about color. We talk about colorism in front of white people like it's nothing. It's in music. Oh, she was light skinned as a description. Oh, she was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so intertwined into our psyche that you can point out so many things that display this sort of self-hatred. You got Black people talking about, what about Black on Black crime when you start talking about the KKK?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I'm looking at them like, nigga, damn, you sound. Why don't you just say I'm a slave? Just have a sign that says slave. You sound like a slave. You don't even understand how you sound like a slave.
Oh gosh.
But anyway, that's
But I wanted to bring up another point that a lot of
Go ahead.
people who haven't been to jail probably won't even think about. But not only do they have to pay that $750 ticket, you actually get charged for every day that you are in jail, for the bed, for the food. If you had if you need medical procedures and all that shit, they're gonna do it in the jail. Like, they try to charge me down there $100 just for pulling a tooth, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're gonna be stuck with a bill once they get out. So
yeah. And Rome, I'm gonna add on to that. When you are incarcerated, your family is also incarcerated.
Oh yeah.
Your family goes in with you. And a lot of people don't realize this, because some people, they have loved ones that are still in their life. And if that person goes into prison, when you need to call, they charge you like crazy for that. I'm trying not to curse because we're not allowed to curse on here anymore. It will get demonetized. But you're charged up to wazoo, right? And then on top of that, then when it comes to putting, you have to put their money on their books just so that they can have actual, healthy food instead of the slop that they give you in these prisons and jails. Because I had family members that we had to, even in jail, we actually had to do that too. We actually had to purchase money, not only food, but also toiletries. We have to pay out of our pockets outside of the prison or the jail just for them to have shampoo, just for them to have soap, deodorant, things like that. So it's not just people going into prison, but it's also extra expenses on your families, on your loved ones as well, that people
Trauma.
don't think about, and
Trauma.
that they go to jail. So that's also there too. Hey, Nick.
Sorry, JB. I was just gonna say the trauma that is so
Mhm.
the story of the trauma of the ones that are left to pick up the pieces from
Yeah.
these types of things. But what's up, Nick? Glad you were able to join because I really want to
Yeah.
ask you about this law, man. But what's up? How you doing?
Great.
What's popping, people? This is the first time that we met together on 2023.
Oh yeah.
All as the RBN family. So I definitely had to try to. I made sure I wanted to join. I was a little bit late. Personal issues. My battery died. I have to get a new battery, dude. That's the kind of shit that really fucks the working class over, guys. Like I barely make it. It's like $250. It's like fuck.
That's so
man.
ridiculous. Think about that. A battery is 200 and something. That is
Anyway,
outrageous. Go ahead.
You know, I talk about that shit later, but so.
But Nick, tell us.
I want to talk about the story because
Why is there a target? Like somebody was saying, just said that like the homeless situation. Savvy was saying the homeless situation is not even as bad as it is in some other states. So why is Missouri targeting this?
Quite a few homeless you see quite a few homeless in Kansas City. Rome was here. We found homeless to feed pretty easily. You go to the city, asking people.
Go to the hood.
Homeless people. Rome, remember what we did? We was literally driving around. We just asking people, "Hey, you seen some homeless people around here?"
Yep.
And it was like people around the block. It's very easy to find here. So it is a thing. Capitalism always hides it. And I want to bring up the point because I'm a harsh critic of Western culture because I think I believe it's failed. It's been a culture built on slavery and based on a prison state mentality. I'm glad he brought up slave patrols. CJ, look at the priority of the ruling class. That's what I said in my tweet. In Missouri, a right-wing red state, and the blue states that do exist are neoliberal, right? Remember, before Cory Bush won in St. Louis, William Lancey Clay and his family had a neoliberal dynasty in St. Louis. Quentin Lucas, Emmanuel Cleaver have a black neoliberal dynasty in Kansas City. So when you're looking out the blue areas that mostly come from urban areas, I'm talking about my hood now, right? That's neoliberal Black Congressional Caucus Democrats. That's why I oppose those people so much, because I've seen what they've done to my life. Then when you look at the rural areas, and when you look at the large population of farmers in our state, those are people who heavily lean Republican. A lot of the upper bourgeoisie area, like what I was talking about Overland Park all the time, Belton, they lean heavily Republican. That's where Missouri becomes a really strong red state. We are part of the Bible Belt. There's a lot of evangelicals here who vote against their own economic interests because of God. That's a whole other conversation. But despite all of this, in Missouri, you had a Medicaid expansion. I didn't include it in the tweet, but they voted this year for a public housing initiative. Missouri, extremely socially conservative, extremely right wing, but people here have class solidarity once they drop the labels. Because when you vote on the ballot, people see R and D, but when they vote on ballot initiatives, they see housing initiatives. Okay. Hell yeah! Rednecks be like hell yeah. On marijuana, rednecks be like hell yeah. You know what I mean? You guys see how RBN got the message of how we should ignore the two-party duopoly bullshit, the culture war bullshit, because that is what divides the working class.
Yeah.
And when I'll pass to you, JB. But when you ask the people what they want, they provide for the workers, they provide for the proletariat. But look at what the ruling class has done in Missouri. They destroyed the state. They destroyed it. In a ballot initiative, we passed Medicaid expansion. Then our governor vetoed it. And then the Supreme Court overturned the right-wing veto. So I don't know why, and I'm talking to every single person I know in real life. If you're a Republican, why aren't you in the fucking streets, dude? Like your own government overturned the will of the people. So I'm having fun. I'll have fun talking to conservatives in my area because this is local politics. Like this is how you connect with people on your local area issues. So you have the right wing that went against ballot initiatives, and then the right wing Supreme Court in Missouri actually overturned that. So we got the Medicaid expansion. It's crazy. crazy.
Wow.
And that's what people need to understand. This is why I've been focusing so heavily on the ballot initiatives. So we've been going through each state. We haven't made it to the M's yet, Nick, because I'm going in alphabetical order, but
Yeah.
about the results for each state, because most of the BI states are red states, and they're
Yeah.
passing like progressive policies. These policies haven't passed on the national level.
I tell you guys, I used to sell cars, so I used to talk to a lot of people. That's how I was able to help shape my political opinion. I'm just talking to people, and people I know who vote red. People are deeply conservative, and they will say stuff like, "Yeah, I think we should increase minimum wage. I think housing should be cheaper." Like I would hear this shit from Missourians all the time. I would hear progressive stuff from Missourians all the time, despite them being red or neoliberal blue. And that's when I knew that it's just propaganda. Just talking to ordinary people, I'm like, man. If it wasn't for the red blue game, if it wasn't for the culture war, we would have a lot of discipline.